Well, welcome to Stories Worth Fighting For, man. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. So, for those of you, or those who are listening who may not know who you are, when someone comes up to you and is like, hey, like, who are you? What do you do? How do you usually describe yourself?
Well, I try not to tell them I'm a trainer
Okay.
because I don't want them to look at my profession. I just love helping people. And then if they want to know more, tell them about, like, I do health coaching, IFBB Pro, which that means nothing to me, like the titles. I think it's more so what I can offer to them and how I can help them. So I give them the titles if they want it, or if that introduction helps them respect me a little bit more to be able to help them. So
Totally. That makes sense. And for those just listening, Philip is a mammoth of a human being. How tall are you? How much do you weigh?
6'2". I haven't weighed myself since I started cutting for the show, so I'm probably around like 265 at the moment. So.
And not much fat. I mean,
there's
a whole mountain of muscle sitting in front of me. So, for those that don't know, what you said an acronym and then PRO. Can you describe what that acronym means?
Okay. So it's the International Federation of Bodybuilding. So it's one of the most respected bodybuilding organizations worldwide. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you're IFBB Pro, that means you're the best of the best in what you do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so bodybuilding, what comes to mind is like Schwarzenegger, like doing Mr. Olympia. That's the kind of thing, the kind of stuff that you do?
Not necessarily, not on that scale. So they have different categories. They have bodybuilding, which Arnold is a part of that. We're all a part of bodybuilding. I guess we're building our bodies. I turned pro in men's physique, which is the upper body, board shorts, and then you have bodybuilding, classic physique, men's physique, and then you have the women's categories as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did you find your way to that world? Was that something you grew up watching and knew you always wanted to be a part of, or did it come about some other way?
Yeah, it came about a different way. It's kind of funny that you asked that. No one really knows. They just see me as like model bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. But bodybuilding was like the furthest thing from my mind. Never thought about it. Never wanted to be a bodybuilder. I think with the health challenges that I faced earlier at 16, 17 years old, from there, training and working out and how hard it was. So I understand how hard it is for people to like diet and exercise. I wanted something that was exciting and fun. Mm-hmm. One of my buddies introduced me to a guy that did bodybuilding. And so I was just like, shoot, that sounds like you got to work really hard for, mm-hmm. and it's something to look forward to at the end of the year or during the year whenever you decide to do a show. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got introduced to bodybuilding. It was like one of the guys, the trainers, he did bodybuilding, and I was just like, hey, prepare me for a show. Mm-hmm. That'll be something to look forward to. And from there, I've been doing it ever since.
No substitute for a deadline, right? Something to train for, some sort of competition. It's really motivating. We do that with Brawl for a Cause. There's a fight date. You are training to go up against another human being a couple months or a couple weeks from now. Like that. If that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will.
Yeah. That's so true.
Let's back up a little bit. You
Yeah.
mentioned some health issues. I'd like to hear more about that. But like before that, I guess in your teenage years, as a kid, were you into sports? Where'd you grow up? Was born in Dallas, Texas.
My dad's a missionary, so we came here for him to do inner city church planting. I play sports. I play basketball. A lot of people think I play football, but like never played football. Always, I was super athletic. So like when those early years, like finding out I had high blood pressure and heart issues, that was shocking to me.
How old were you when you got that?
When I found out, I was 16 years old.
16?
Yeah.
And just like regular checkup? They were just like, hey, like why is your blood pressure high? Or did something happen?
So I was actually working for a company, Southern Stairs in Alpharetta, mm-hmm. And they wanted me to get a physical done. And the guy was like, I can't clear you because your blood pressure is so high. He was like, maybe you ate some French fries before coming in here? I was like, no. I was like, I haven't had anything. So he was like, you got to see the doctor before I can clear you. He was like, go see the doctor, come back. And then I scheduled an appointment with the doctor.
Well, at that point, are you thinking like this is a mistake?
Yeah, I was just like, what is this guy talking about? Yeah. And so, at that point, it's just like, at 16 years old, you don't think about health or anything like that. You're just enjoying life. And went to the doctor. And then he checked my blood pressure, did it several times, and it was extremely high. And he told me I had high blood pressure, so he prescribed medication. And I was just like, okay, so I can take this and eat whatever I want. He was like, no. So that was like, that point in my life as a kid, as a teenager, I think that was like the end of the world for me, because it was like no fast food, no fries with salt, no soda, no chocolate, like everything that as a kid that you consume, it was like out of the window. And so I had to basically figure out my life, like as a kid. I didn't know anything, so I didn't know any better. So it was that was a very interesting point in my life.
So when you get that diagnosis, what were you saying to yourself? Like, did you see it as like woe is me? Why is this happening to me? What's going on? Like, why God? Or was it like, what was it, something else?
I was the first thing came to my mind was like, what just happened?
Disbelief.
Yeah, and from there I was trying to figure out like, okay, what does my life look like from here? And I've always been like a person that's been driven. So when I played sports, I wanted to be the best, and I practiced to be the best. So when it came to that challenge in my life, I was just like, okay, so what do I do from here? Like, how do I become healthy? And I had no idea. I'm a kid still, like I had like lack of information. So I tried to do the best I could. And it didn't work out for me.
So yeah, you're 16. You're on this medicine that I mean can't be making you feel too good. Like
no.
what was that like? What were some of the side effects or whatever of this condition, and how you had to treat it?
Man, so when you talk about side effects, that was like from being like from having no care in the world, feeling like you're healthy, to getting to the point where the doctor was like, you're sick. And then you're feeling fine, but the medication that they give you makes you feel horrible. I mean, there was times like I would have to take off work after taking the medication. I'd be like in bed for a day. It was life-changing to the point where I would pray every day. I remember this, like I would pray every day up until I actually took control of my health, that I would never have to take those pills, because there was the cons outweigh the pros, to wake up and attack the day and then to wake up and feel like crap. That's not what you expect to feel like when you're taking blood pressure medication, and then it regulating you not having the energy that you once had, because it's lowering your blood pressure, so your heart's not beating as fast. A little ADHD was going on too, so like I'm not able to function as quick as possible. So it was devastating. It was life changing.
It's so tough, especially to be grappling with this early in life. Like when you would go to clinics or doctor's offices, were there other people that looked like you that were having the same problems?
I think that was the issue. So going to the prescription lines, going to get medication, even like there was the funniest part. It wasn't funny at the time, but the medication that the doctor gave me, I looked at and it's like 55 and up. So yeah, so in the lines, the prescription lines, to get medication filled. I mean, everybody that was getting the medication, they were 65, 55, and we all had the same issue. Like the medication was making us sick. But here I am, and like I think at this point I was probably like 20, 21 at the time.
So on this stuff for 4 years.
Yeah. And here's the thing: the medication, the dosage, the milligrams would get higher and higher almost every year.
Because you're building up a tolerance.
Yeah. By the time I was 25, I was up to 90 milligrams of propranolol, and that's when I knew I had to change something.
So are you currently on this medicine?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what changed, and when did that happen?
Yeah. Okay. So that happened at 25 years old. I went into the doctor's office. So I had a cardiologist that I would see monthly, and I had a general practitioner that I would see. And my blood pressure was super high. They prescribed me the propranolol. And he was telling me, he was just like, Phil, you got to do something. He was like, we're doing all we can medically. The medication, you're on like almost the highest dosage of medication. And then it started to weaken my heart. So I was back and forth from the cardiologist to general practitioner. At that point, it was just like me physically working it was almost impossible. I mean, I drove trucks at the time. And so I would drive to Augusta. I think I told you this story. I would drive to Augusta and I couldn't make that trip like in one setting. I would have to pull over to take a nap. And then on the way back, I would have to take a nap. I was just tired all the time. But my blood pressure was still rising, and he was like, we're doing all we can medically. I think what really changed my mind into making a change wasn't the fact that like, oh, Phil, you're dying. It was more so at that point, I had went to they give you the samples. And so I went to the pharmacist to get the prescription filled. And the lady gave me the number. She was like, it's $189 and change. And I was just like, let me give you my insurance card. And she was like, that's after insurance. At that point, I couldn't see myself paying that much for something that was making me sick. At the same time, that was enabling me like to do what I wanted to do. So at that point, I'd signed up for a gym membership. I think at D1 Fitness was like $10 a month, which is way cheaper.
Cheaper than yeah.
Yeah, so that was that pivotal point in my life. Like, just when the doctor said we're doing all we can medically, I think that was me relying on them to do something for me. At that point, when he said that, then I had to rely on myself to change the outcome.
What an important mindset shift, too. So you start working out. How soon after you start working out do you go off the meds?
So I started, let me tell you how desperate I was to get healthy at that point. So I started working out for about 2 to 3 months. I had no idea what I was doing. And so I was so desperate to get healthy, I was going to the store and I was getting like kidney beans, anything with a heart on the box or can, anything that I thought was like heart healthy. And so after about 3 months, and then I told you about the trainer that was training for a bodybuilding show. When I met him, and he put me on a diet plan and a training routine before the show, my first show ever, that's when I got off the medication. So it was about 6 months.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, 6 months. So you wean off. What happens the next time you go back to your cardiologist?
That was a funny story. So the doctor that I was seeing had moved from Villa Rica, Georgia to Atlanta. Mm-hmm. There was a new doctor at that facility, and he had my chart. So the nurse checks my blood pressure and it's like, wow, Phil, that's the best your blood pressure has ever been. Keep taking the medication. I go see the doctor in his office, and he was just like, this cannot be the same guy. He's looking at my chart. He's like, this dude is near death that I'm looking at on the chart, and the guy in front of me is like healthy. He was just like, all I can say is just keep taking your meds, and I was completely off the medication at that point. Yeah.
What a reaffirmation of your decision to take your health, your life into your own hands.
Oh yeah.
What a moment.
Yeah.
Is that something where you were like, nana boo boo, like I'm not taking the meds? Like, did he shove that back in their face or no?
Not really. I think I kept it quiet because that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to know, because I tell people all the time, like, if you don't have to take the meds, don't take the meds. But at the same time, I respect what the doctors do. So that was me finding out that what I was doing was working, and then I was healthier off the medication, but me taking control of my health, taking control of my diet, my training, everything, just being in control and not giving them the control, taking the medication and doing absolutely nothing.
So for other people who may be listening, maybe their doctors told them that they have high blood pressure or they're at risk for it. What kinds of things can they be doing outside of popping a pill that can help address the same issue that you've overcome?
Man, cardio for me was like one of the most important things, like getting active, cardio, weight training, water consumption, consuming more water. I did apple cider vinegar. I ate stuff that was better for me, not stuff that tastes good, not necessarily. But
apple cider vinegar, man.
Yeah,
I wake up to one of those shots. That'll wake you up more than coffee.
Yeah.
Bam!
Oh, man.
all your sinuses and senses and everything is like, you're awake. And it's good for your gut.
Yeah. There's a lot of benefits with that apple cider outside of like helping with high blood pressure. And I think that was a fascinating thing for me. And from for me, like studying and researching on my own, that's what got me to like study for like nutrition, because I wanted to be the best version of myself.
Okay, well, let's get to the best version of yourself, right? So you got this health issue behind you. Your doctor's like, hey, you're better than you've ever been. Keep doing what you're doing. They think that's medicine. You know, it's just the little things, doing them over and over again right. It's good diet. It's staying hydrated. It's getting some cardio in. It's doing weight training. So once you build that foundation of healthy habits, where did you go from there? Because you're, like you said, you have the mindset of like, if I want to do something, I want to do it all the way. Yeah. So what happened next?
So I did that first competition, and here's the funniest thing about that. What was that? I think I was like 22. Okay. No. This was after the
life shift.
Yeah. So I was probably like 26 at the time, because 25 was when they. I didn't tell you this part. 25 was when the doctor wanted to do open heart surgery, and I'll tell you exactly what he said to me. And this was like between like the medication and me getting the gym membership. So I was already taking 2 medications, and the doctor, he was like, "Hey, we can either put you on a 3rd medication." And I was like, "No." He was like, "We could do open heart surgery," and I was like, "No." And then he was like, "Or you can walk out of this door." And then just like, go into cardiac arrest at some point and hope we save you. And I took option 3. And that's when I started like dieting, training, or what have you. Yeah. So I was so determined to be healthy, because it was like the last option was for me to take care of myself was death, So I was just like, so I was just like, I said, I'm going to save my life. So I trained really hard for that show. Right before that show, I called my mom before even stepping on stage. I called my mom the day of the show. It was probably like 30 minutes before the show. And I tell my mom, I said, I won. And she was like, congratulations. I said, no, Mom, I didn't win the show. I'm off of my medication, and it's the best I've ever looked and the healthiest I've ever been in my life. I was like, I won. I didn't even have to go compete. And it makes me emotional thinking about that, because I know where I was mentally, I didn't win the show. I got second. But
amazing
me, yeah.
And what a moment to have that feeling before you even step into the arena.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something. So 2 things there that I'd love to dissect. One, I mean, this is something that we preach over and over again to the people that sign up for Brawl for a Cause, right?
Yeah.
You sign up, you're going to step into the arena in 8 weeks, let's say. So like we have an 8-week program. When they step through those ropes, the goal is for them to have that same exact feeling that you felt, where there is no self-doubt. They're happy because they've taken steps to actually changing their life. Yeah. They've taken on this really scary prospect of fighting another human being. They've trained harder than they've ever trained. They overcame a bunch of these trials, and now they're here, ready to do their thing. And you calling your mom is such an awesome moment that really speaks to your mindset and how you define winning. Because it's not necessarily about if your hand's raised at the end of a fight, or if you have a medal around your neck. It's how you feel about what you did. It's about the journey.
Yeah, most definitely.
So the other thing I want to dig into is death.
Yeah.
So people don't like talking about death. We don't really get it, right? Yeah. We don't know for sure what happens after, and it's where faith comes in and everything. But I think death is extremely motivating. Yeah. In the same way that a competition is motivating, having a date or a deadline where it's like, I need to be the best that I can be before that. Yeah. Right? Correct. I think death kind of works the same way, but you don't really have a death date. Yeah. Right? There's not like all right, you got like 23 years left. What are you going to do with them? It's like, it could happen at any time. So, it's basically like waking up for a competition every day. Like, what are you going to do? Because it could happen today. And are you making the most of this? It's an extremely motivating moment when people, I think, really grapple with death for the first time. And maybe it happened earlier for you, or maybe it happened in that moment when the doctor was like, you walk out of here and you're eventually going to die. And if it's really soon due to cardiac arrest, maybe we can save you, maybe we can't. Yeah. But like, here's the fear of death. What are you going to do with it? Yeah. And so, I commend you for how you responded to that. I hope more people respond the way that you do, and instead of buckling or shying away from the fact that all of us are going to die. Yeah. And that what we do before that happens matters. Yeah. Correct. So okay, your first competition, fear of death propels you to the best shape of your life. You're healthy. You look good. You're happy. Yeah. I I think I know where this is going. That probably wasn't your last competition, right?
No.
Okay. So let's continue.
Yeah, in my mind at that point, it was such a motivating factor for me to like train, that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a competition every year, for the simple fact of me staying healthy. You know, I'd overcome a lot with the first competition, but I wanted something to inspire me like every year to continue to do what I was doing, because training was just so hard. You know, it was new to me. Although I played sports, I never like worked out. I did construction, so there's no need for me to get a gym membership or anything like that until like I was faced with that health issue. So at that point, I was just like, man, this sucks. Like running every day, working out every day, like really sucks. So I needed something to motivate me every year. So I started competing, and you know, it had, like you said, like the mindset of an individual is so important. So it's just like when you're driven and you want something like bad, it's just like, it's not the fact of like, I want to beat this person or that person. I just want to be the best version of myself. And with that mindset, you know, training for the competitions, I did well, you know, top 5 finishes in almost every show until I got to nationals. So it was one of those things where it basically, the drive and the work ethics basically propelled the way for me to be pro, even though that's not even what I wanted. When I turned pro, I was like, I'll never do a pro show. You know, and my coach was like pissed. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, this is not what I'm in it for, you know? Yeah. I just want to do a show every year to basically become better. But at that time, once I got the pro status, I was like, I can take this status and I can help other people. So I was looking at a bigger picture, past the stage, past the lights, past the accomplishments. And I think a lot of people get lost in like, you know, the titles and the accomplishments. Right. But I was looking at it as like, this gives me an opportunity to help more people, you know? Because I never wanted anybody to have to deal with what I had to deal with and not have resource, not have an individual to say, hey, this is how you walk through this door and then get physically fit. I had nothing, you know. I had no one like coaching me and telling me what to do. I had YouTube, you know, in a gym membership. I was in the gym for like 3 hours initially, just trying to figure things out. So I was like, I want to take the knowledge and the information that I had in the journey, and then help other people.
And it's motivating on the one hand, where it's like you can become a Philip Blow with just YouTube. And the right mindset. But it's even more motivating when you know that you can have someone like Philip Blow in your corner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey, you went through all this, you can learn from my experience, and as long as the will is there, they can make something of themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool balance. Now, you're a humble guy, a lot of humility. Why don't you tell me about your biggest win?
My biggest win? Let's see. There's a lot of wins in my life. My biggest win, let's see, without going through everything, I think my biggest win happened after like the worst loss of my life. And that was my daughter when she passed away. I think the biggest win for me was dealing with that for 6 years and not knowing how to deal with that grief and not knowing how to deal with that loss and not accepting that loss. I was doing cardio one day. It was early one morning. I was preparing for a competition. And I remember I would always tell God, it was like, God, if she was here, life would be better. Anytime I dealt with like a hardship or anything like that, I would say, God, if she was here, life would be better. And I remember him, like, it was almost like clear as day, saying like, you know, how long was she here? And she passed after 10 months of being on earth. And it was like, and I was like 10 months, you know? And he was like, she was only here for 10 months. And here you are at, I forget what age I was, at 25, 26. And it was just like, she was only here for 10 months and made that big of an impact on your life. Just like she made that impact on your life, do that for others. Give them a reason to live. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it was so clear to me how life is short, life is fragile, but it's so important that we all have the power of impact. Like what we choose to do with our lives in that short amount of time that we're here is powerful, you know? And for her to only be on earth for 10 months, and for 6 years, I grieved the loss of her only being, and people had died, you know, people were born into the world during those 6 years, And I felt absolutely nothing, you know? And he was like, just like she impacted you, like just being here 10 months. And at that point, I was like, she had did her job. She taught me how to love unconditionally. Regardless of like what issues she had, I was okay with that, you know? And then she taught me how to live, because if that had not happened, I don't think I would be the person I am today. I don't think I would be grateful for life. I don't think I would help people. I don't think I would understand what it is to lose somebody and then to continue to move on. I don't understand. I don't think I would understand what it is to live without experiencing that loss. And that was so powerful for me. I think that was my biggest win, is to understand like the purpose of life, you know? And that was just like doing cardio one morning and just like crying in my feelings and just like pissed off and like, God, what did you do? You know? And at that point I realized that we all have the power of impact. You know, we're either gonna have a negative or positive impact. So we choose the type of impact that we wanna have. And so at that point I was just like, just be positive. Like put energy, the right energy into yourself, put the right energy into people, and just be successful at it.
Amen. Oh, what a powerful response to tragedy, to adversity. And I think, to your point, having the mindset that, hey, whatever happens to me, I'm going to focus on the positive.
Yeah.
Some may call it delusional, but it's more of a how can I use this?
Yeah.
This is already bad. This already hurts. It's already painful. But how can I transform that pain into something with purpose? How can I transform myself and maybe those around me into the type of person that takes adversity and turns it into armor, and takes struggle and turns it into strength? And it's clear that you've done that.
Yeah.
I commend you for that. And what a hard thing to overcome. And I was trying to bait. I know you had a huge win in a competition, but it speaks even more to your character and to your soul, that the biggest win in your mind is this really intimate, very personal moment of a mindset shift, instead of being on stage with all the lights on you and getting your name called.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I guess that's a consolation prize. Can we hear about the competition?
Yeah. So there's two competitions that were priced. The first one was the muscle and fitness competition at the Olympia. That one.
And just for context, explain Olympia. Like what?
Yeah.
Like for someone that isn't in this world, that doesn't understand it, like, bare bones, what is it?
Yeah, so the Olympia is the biggest bodybuilding show in the world, where all the best physiques of the world come in, and they're placed. They're ranked in the world. And so Muscle and Fitness has a competition. Flex Magazine and Muscle and Fitness Magazine had a competition to where they would bring all the models, like, and competitors, you know, that weren't pro, from all over the world, and on one stage. And then there was one trophy, you know. And you could win the cover of the magazine. At that point in my life, I had just overcame the high blood pressure. I was new to the sport, driven, but it was just like, you know, I don't even know why I signed up for this show, because it was a really big show, but maybe I just believed in myself. And I was going through a lot in life. To make a long story short, on the way to the competition, my flight was redirected. So I didn't even make it there until like the day of the show. I was supposed to be there 2 days earlier. I ended up having there was a delay. I ended up having to fly to California, and then from California to Vegas. I got there the morning of the show, the day that I was supposed to step on stage.
Wow.
So everything went horribly wrong.
All your prep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that's like down to a
Oh
science,
man,
right?
yeah.
The way you prepared the last few days.
Yeah, everything went horribly wrong. Got there, I was super confident. I just had a good feeling that everything was going to work out. I mean, at that point, what can you do? I had trained. Prior to that, this is a crazy thing. Prior to that, I had played like 7 games of volleyball. Dislocated my shoulder, so I couldn't even pose, couldn't even train upper body. You know, so this was like 4 to 2 weeks out from the show. And I remember Michael Bevins was like, "What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "I have no idea, but I'm already lean, so I just got to stay on track." So it was like, so when I finally made it out there, it was just one thing after another. Got backstage right before they were calling the competitors up. I realized I didn't even have my number. You know, the photographer that was with me was like on the other side of the venue. So no cell phone service, had to track the photographer down. It was so crazy because everything prior to that had been horribly wrong. Life was like just crazy. The blood pressure issues, I had overcome that. And so it came to the point where I finally got the badge. They were already calling competitors up. And I got up there, I felt great about the competition. But the night show, when they finally announced, when they were going to announce the winner, they had the top 10 up there. It was, I think, 70 guys from all over the world.
Wow.
So they were going to announce the top 10. And when they brought that single trophy out there, meaning there was only one place, and that was first place, I think everything became real at that moment. I was like, here I am on the biggest stage of the world, and there's only 10 guys on this stage, the top 10, and there's only one trophy. And if I don't win that trophy, then everything that I worked for was for nothing. That was my mindset. So I was just like, when they call us out to battle for this trophy, to pose, I got to give it all I got, you know? And we were up there, it seemed like eternity. And so, hot lights, stretcher, people screaming, you know, they're not screaming your number half the time. So it's just like, you know, hey, I gotta give them a show. And so they called us back to the line, and then they announced the winner. And when they said my name and went to interview me, I couldn't do anything but break down crying, because at that point I felt like I trained for everybody that had heart issues, everybody that had health issues that were trying to overcome it, people that were disabled, people that had lost somebody, because had lost my daughter. And it's just like, at that point I had given everything I had, you know, physically, you know, to train for that competition, for that trophy. For everybody else, even like in the gym, I remember doing pull-ups to failure, literally. I think I stopped counting at 70, and I collapsed to the floor, and I told myself, I can't bring my daughter back, but I can be better, you know? And so that was the mindset that I had, and that was what I brought to the stage. And I wanted to win, not for me, but for everybody else. So it was a huge win for me. That was like the biggest win. Like, besides turning pro, like, that's just a title. I didn't even care about that. That was the biggest win for me, because I had overcome so much, you know, and I stood on that stage with a guy that was like a year prior was on a heart monitor for 6 months, you know. No one knew that. Nobody, half the people still don't know that. I don't share this all the time, but at that point, that was a huge win for me. And I was just like, you know what, if I can do it, anybody can. And that's why I inspire so many people and push them to be their best, because it's like, you have no idea what I went through, you know, to get to that point, to the point where the doctor was like, you know, prior to that, a lot of people don't even know about this, but I have nerve damage in this arm, and I'm not supposed to do preacher curls or anything like that. I can be doing pull-ups, the nerve will feel like it unravel and I'll fall. Even certain lifts that I do, is just like I'll feel the tingling sensation. The doctor eventually told me, like, these two fingers would just literally curl up, like I would have no use. Wow. So like finding that out prior to that competition as well, and feeling like the pain of that nerve damage during that lift, and it was to the point where I was like, you know, I want this more than anything, you know, and I want this not for me, but for everybody that's dealing with whatever they're dealing with, so I can let them know, like, it's possible, you know, you can overcome anything. And that was the biggest win for me.
Oh, that's huge. And you know, what I'm hearing is you had causes. You had things that were bigger than yourself that you could draw strength from. When things got scary or painful with your injury, or mentally or emotionally, like you had fuel in the tank. You had this energy coming from this cause that you stood for, whether it's someone who's lost someone, someone that's overcome some sort of medical condition. Any of those things you're drawing from to propel yourself forward, to become a better version of yourself, not just for yourself, but for everyone that you touch. And I think it's really important. I think you should do this more, talking about the darker sides of your story, the scarier moments, because everyone has those.
Yeah.
And not enough people dig into them and show other people, like, yeah, you might see me on stage. I'm just like you.
Yeah.
And maybe even I started in a worse off position than you. So if I can do it, here's how you can do it too. Here's the whole story, not just the 15 minutes of fame on the stage, you know? So thank you for sharing your stories. And what a moment, what a transformation to go through in a year or 18 months or whatever it was, from being hooked up to a heart monitor to having your name called when, you know, out of 70 of the best from all over the world. That's an amazing moment. And so after that, you were retired, right?
I'd like to think I could have, but like my mom won't let me.
So more similar competitions, more magazine covers. What came next?
So I did a lot of modeling, more competitions. At that point, I think I was in between modeling and then wanting to get the pro card, but not necessarily. And I remember I did a show in Chicago. That was the worst placing ever. I did a show in Chicago, drove all the way, and I think the worst thing I could have done was drive. You know, so I drove all the way to Chicago, and I felt I didn't feel good about that show. I think I was like at the point where it's like I think I want to go back to modeling. It's a lot. It's more rewarding financially. And I got up there and I got 15th, you know, from placing top 5 and winning, I got 15th. And then I had to drive back. It was Father's Day. It was Father's Day, the day that I was driving back. So of course that brought up a lot of emotions, you know, my daughter passing away. And then, you know, I was going to have dinner with my father. So I was like trying to make it good time, headed back. And I remember telling my buddy, I was just like, I think I'm done. You know, I think I'm done with the sport. I think I'm gonna go back to modeling. And it's the craziest thing is like, as I was driving, this is before they was like, no texting and driving. So, you know, so yeah. So I was looking at my phone and my agent, my modeling agent had passed away like that day. I was like, what am I looking at? I just saw a lot of people saying like, rest in peace on social media. It's like pictures of him like on my feed, and I was like, what's going on? And so, needless to say, I never went back to modeling. Of course, that was a very emotional time. I was like, you know, I was defeated, you know, not mentally, but you know, I'd lost the show, you know, by 15 places, you know? And at that point it was transitional. I was just like, you know, do I go back to modeling? Do I stay in the sport? And I couldn't accept the fact that I'd done so poorly. So I trained harder. The next show I got like 7th place. And then I tell myself I'll never compete again. So I think I got in that mindset of competing with other people because I was competing a lot and I had lost myself in the sport. And at that point, I was like, I'll never compete again. And a lot of people was like, are you done? I was like, no. Like the next show I do, I'm going to win because I'm going to bring the best package I've ever brought. I was only training to be better than this person or that person, you know, but I was just like, I can be 10 times better, you know. I brought a package I wasn't satisfied with. I brought another package I wasn't satisfied with because I just got caught up in competing. So at that point, I was just like, you know, be the best version of myself. And then I just fell off the grid for a little bit, trained, and then won that show in Pittsburgh, man, and got my IFBB Pro card. And it was just me there. And that was the most interesting point in time of life because during that time, I was like, separated, going through a divorce, and I was literally sleeping in my car. No one knows this. They have no idea. And I remember backstage, the guys were pumping up, and this dude he turns over to me. He says,
"What kind of car do you have?"
Yeah, so it was a truck, Dodge Ram.
Still,
you know, yeah. And so I thought, you know, just trying to get things back on track, get back on my feet. But like that, you know, so all I did was like put energy into myself, my body, and train for the show. And I remember the guy looks at me during the pump up. He was just like, man, you can't do this by yourself. He was just like, I know how, he was like, this is really hard for me if I didn't have my wife, if I didn't have my friends, if I didn't have my support system. I don't think I could do this.
And what is the pump up?
So basically, like a few minutes before stage, probably like 5 minutes or less, you actually like take in simple sugars, do push-ups, pump up the bis, tris, shoulders to get that. You know, you go in the gym, you work out, and you get that pump.
Get some
that vascularity. Yeah. So you would do that prior to stepping on stage.
Okay.
And so I remember back there, and he said that, and here I am with nobody. It's just me. And I think this is another big moment in my life. I remember standing in that line, and everything that had happened was like, you know, I felt hurt, you know, with the relationship not going the way that I wanted to go, and what it all had transpired. The hardest thing for me to do is forgive those people. And I remember God was like, hey, you work so hard, you know, you got to forgive these people. And I fought that, man. Like, they had called the class before me. They had called my class. I was in the line, in the lineup before stepping on stage. And then I dropped down on my knees and I like asked God to help me. And I forgave everybody that had done me wrong, and stood there on that stage. And it was very interesting how it played out. They had called I think 6 or 7 people out there. And they called one guy. He was in front of me. So there's a line of guys. And I'm in the second line. So it's that many guys. There was like 70, 80 guys at this national show. And they called the guy in front of me for first call outs, and he walks out there, and the 2 guys beside him are about to close the gap, and I step forward. And the head judge scans and then calls my number. You know, so I was about to get overlooked completely. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to get overlooked completely. I get to the stage, and you know, we're battling it out, and then they call me to the center box, and that's when I won my pro card. Man, when I knew what had happened, I was like staring at the ceiling, trying not to get emotional. All the guys would congratulate me for being in the center box, but I was just like, man, you have no idea how hard it was to get to this point. And that's what, you know, a lot of people don't understand. It's just like there's more to life than looking great physically, and then what you accomplish. You know, it's just like, you know, the mindset is everything, and that's why I think now, to me, it's more about balance. You know, you see a lot of people put so much energy into their physical, but it's like, where's your mind at? I mean, like, how are you treating other people? You know, do people even like you? They may love the way you look and want to inspire to be like you, but when they meet you, would they change their mind? Yeah. You know, and that's where, like, from there, it's just like, to be in the best physical shape of my life, you know, but I knew I still need to work on a lot of other things.
What a moment. So, I mean, seizing the moment, stepping up into that gap, I think there's a lesson in that. And I don't know if that's something where it happened in a fraction of a second, so you couldn't really think about what you were doing and what you were stepping into.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like jumping into a river, right? That current's just going to sweep you wherever the hell it wants to sweep you. And as soon as you took that step up, there you go to the center box. There you go to, you know, winning your pro card.
Yeah.
And I'm getting goosebumps. Like it's moments like that really alter the course of people's lives.
Yeah. So true.
So I love that you are a role model, not just in physique. Because clearly, you know, people can pick up magazines or Google your name and see that, but also in mindset and heart and who you are as a person, and like you said, the balance between the two is so important. So I really hope you do more things like this to get your story out there, because it's inspiring, not just from an accomplishment standpoint, but from a inner working, you know, how you talk to yourself, how you train that mindset to be a champion, not for a medal, but for your life.
Yeah.
And so I really respect that. What are you working on now? So what, you know, you've had these awesome competitions. You're still competing. You have one coming up in May.
Yeah.
So there's still a competition aspect of your life. What else is going on?
So right now we're working on an app Because I want, at this point in my life, I want to reach as many people as possible, help as many people as possible. So we're working on an app to get that information out there, like worldwide.
Nice.
At the same time, we're working on shooting different programs, like informational, like workouts, proper form and stuff like that as well. And then we're doing some nutritional stuff. I'm coaching athletes and stuff. I enjoy doing that, getting people the best shape of their life, helping them reach their potential, help them reach their goals or what have you. So that's where everything is now, is just getting myself to a point where I can actually generate income in order for me to be able to like go to different schools and speak and not worry about the financial issues of like, going away from a job. And travel. So it's just, trying to put information out there that's helpful to be able to sustain income for me to be able to do what I love to do. And that's like going to different schools and talking to kids. And because I was 17, 16, 17 years old when I found out I had high blood pressure issues. And it's just like a lot of kids are dealing with that and they have no idea what to do, and then, as a kid, when you think your life is over, your life isn't over. We're a testament to that. It's like, you get, break up with a girl, you're like, life is over, So it's just like, just going to different schools and sharing information and, and then I work at like Kennesaw State, like in the summertime, helping like high school students, like the transitional phase between like high school and college. Helping with the nutrition and stuff like that. So I want to do more of that, but whether it pays or doesn't pay, I want to be able to do that because that's what I want to do,
It's the why. It's not the what or the how, You're cause driven. You have a strong purpose, and I hope everyone finds that. The equivalent in their life. How can people help? How can people follow along? Where can they find you online or around town?
Okay. Shoot, if they around town, I'm always at the forum. I'm there a lot.
Home.
Yeah.
Home away from home.
Like everybody thinks I live there. So the Forum Athletic Club is where they can find me. Like if they're in Atlanta, social media, Philip Blow _IFBB Pro on Instagram, Facebook is just Philip Blow, Twitter is I think it's just Philip Blow, and then on YouTube, it's Philip Blow as well. I think it's Philip Blow Fitness on that one. But it's just like how people can help is like, this is my mindset, It's like we lived our lives, and we're still living our lives. But the next generation, they need motivation, they need inspiration, they need guidance, So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, so I can help the next generation. Give them a reason to push forward or to live their dream and not just get a career, But it's like back when we were younger, and people would say, do what you love, but a lot of times I think that was lost in translation. But at the end of the day, it's just like, if you're good helping animals, probably want to be a veterinarian, If you're good with like talking to people, probably want to be a communicator. It's just letting people know, like, kids know this. It's like, hey, you're naturally good at something. You're gifted. You have a gift. Everybody has a gift. Use that gift to help other people and to make your millions, and not necessarily like settle for like a degree in order to do something that makes X amount of money, but get that degree in a field that you're gifted at, so you can actually be one of the greats, So it's just like helping the next generation like become greater than what we are now, You of course, like Brawl for a Cause, you want someone, a younger kid to like have your same drive and passion and take it like long after you're gone, take that to the next level and pass that and be better than you. So it's just like creating people that are better than ourselves, and inspire them, giving them the knowledge and information that we had, that we didn't have, but we have now, giving them that information so they can be better than us.
Evolution, man.
Yeah, there it is right there. Yeah, I love it.
I love it too. That's awesome, and that's a great message. I hope people take that to heart. The more people that are living with purpose and doing what they love, I think the happier everyone's going to be. The better people treat each other, the better they they spend their time when they do have free time, they're able to do things that call to them, like helping out kids or clients or whoever. So really, really important. I hope people take that to heart. So we wrap up every episode with gratitude. Yeah. So I'll go first. Basically, I'm very grateful for the space that Friendly Human gives us to be able to record this. I'm grateful to Chris for setting up all this crazy equipment and doing all the technical things that I don't know how it works to make the podcast happen. I'm grateful for Sweetfish who does our audio editing and uploading and all that kind of stuff. Grateful to you for taking the time to come out and share your story. I think it's an inspirational one. I can't wait to put it out there, and hopefully other people listen and are inspired and are able to reach out and connect with you. And I'm grateful, especially today, for our brawlers. We're less than 3 weeks out.
Oh man!
And this will probably air after the next event, but. There's so much emotion. There's so much anticipation and fear right now because they know who they're matched up against. They've done such a good job fundraising. A ton of people know it. Everyone in their lives know that they're doing this. It's kind of the point. And so all that pressure's mounting, and they're handling it like champs. And so my hope for them, especially when you were talking earlier about this, calling your mom right before the competition, my hope for them is that they all have that feeling.
Yeah.
In a couple weeks' time when we do the next brawl. So what about you? Who are you grateful for today or in general?
Yeah, well, I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thanks for having me. I want to say that I'm grateful for my parents to raise me the way that they did, and then to understand life, on a different perspective in the country, away from everything, having that time to appreciate life. And then for everybody that has mentored me, like in this journey, I don't think I would be here or even be sitting here if it wasn't for those individuals. So I'm super grateful for everybody, and I don't take anybody in my life for granted. I think everybody's in your life for a reason. So I just want to say a big thank you to everybody that's in my life at the present time and even in the past that have helped shape my life to this point.
Beautiful, man. Well, Phil Blow, go check him out. We're all wrapped up, man. Thanks for being here.
Man, thank you.
Yep.